All right, guys. So I'm going to be going over an article that was published on the CrossFit main site recently. Stacy sent it to me a while back. Really good article. I'm glad she sent it to me. And it gives me a platform to work off of to talk about if you are going to make it long term as a CrossFit athlete. If this training methodology is going to work for you long term, or if you're going to phase out. And I think these 3 points are critical to that. And so it really gives me a platform to talk about this. And I want to first get into, there are 3 points I want to make here at the beginning. CrossFit does not work without intensity. 2, that intensity applied wrong or used in the wrong ways will also be your downfall. And then 3rd, CrossFit will humble you. CrossFit takes patience and humility, and it may take longer for some of the good athletes to get humbled, but it's going to happen to everyone. And if you're not willing to let CrossFit humble you, you're not going to last as a CrossFitter. CrossFit requires a lot of taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Sometimes the opposite, taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back. I think very often CrossFit requires you taking 5 steps back to long-term get 7 steps forward. And that's what I want to get into here, is why these 3 points illustrate that and what I'm talking about. So I watch a lot of YouTube. You guys have probably seen videos like this. They're very common. It's the guy on YouTube, usually somebody that came from a different athletic or way of exercising, and talking about how he loves CrossFit, but it's going to injure you and you can't use it long term. I got into CrossFit. I loved it. I did it for 6 months or a year or 18 months or 2 years, but I got injured and it's just not the right way to go, as exciting as it was. And I want to say that every time I've watched one of these, this is their fault. This is the fault of how they applied CrossFit, not the fault of the methodology. And I can illustrate this and prove this. And this is what I'm talking about, CrossFit taking humility and time to learn how to do right. That it's great because you can jump in and start getting results. But CrossFit is different. High Rocks is just a long CrossFit workout. The Spartan Race is just a workout. What makes CrossFit so good and so sustainable is because there is so much to it that you can keep getting better for your whole life. But because of that, it's going to take patience to get really good at and to learn how to do correctly. If you use an axe and you're chopping wood and you cut off your fingers, we don't say the axe is bad. We say you didn't know how to use it right. Cars kill people every day. We don't say cars are bad. It is user error. If you've ever done this, if you ever cut up jalapeños and then you went to rub your eyes or take a shower without washing your hands or without properly washing your hands, you'll learn the hard way when your nuts are on fire or your eyes are watering that you need to wash your hands properly before you cut up jalapeños. This does not mean that we need to outlaw jalapeños, that they are too dangerous to handle. It just means you need to know what you're doing when you use them. And this is the point I'm trying to make with CrossFit. When you come into CrossFit from another background, let's talk about what those backgrounds might be. Weightlifting and powerlifting. Okay, these work very set movement patterns. They work mainly type 2 or the fast twitch muscle fibers. They use one energy system in the body. It is very narrow in its focus. And that's great. I'm not talking about the merits of a way to work out. They're great. I'm talking about how they stimulate the body. If you're a gymnast, if you come to this from a gymnastic background, this is all body weight movement. Gymnastics are great. They teach a lot of body awareness, but it's using maybe 2 energy systems. 1, maybe 2, depending on how you apply it, what sport you're doing with gymnastics, and it's all body weight movements. Triathletes, they're doing, I think you guys understand this term, monostructural movements, just body weight movements, done in a cyclical manner that, let's be honest, are all pretty basic. I am a terrible swimmer. I could get a lot better, but I can go swim right now. Swimming, running, biking, you can all go do that today. We can all get better at it too, but movements you can go do right away. It's working one energy system. It's working one type of muscle fiber on the body, type 1 muscle fibers, almost primarily. Nothing else combines all this the way CrossFit does. Combining all of that and so much more. And then when you combine them, there's a whole different set of stimulus on the body that starts happening, which is why it is so effective. But to come into CrossFit, if somebody comes into CrossFit and says they did it, I don't care how experienced they are as an exerciser or athlete, they come into CrossFit and say, I did it for 6 months or a year or even 2 years. And so I knew what I was doing. I picked it up right. And it's just not, it's too dangerous. You're speaking out of ignorance or arrogance. Either you just don't get it and don't understand what you're doing, or your ego can't understand that it's going to take longer than that to get this right. The guy who says that, the guy who's like, I came into this and I've been working out my whole life and I did CrossFit for 18 months and it's too dangerous to use. This is the guy who went and cut up a bunch of jalapeños and jumped in the shower. And then when his nuts are on fire, he says, we need to outlaw jalapeños. They're too dangerous. And I'm like, no, dude. And I've cut up tons of vegetables. I've cut up veggies my whole life. Great. Well, you never cut up a jalapeno before, and now you know. That's essentially what they are saying. And so when I've seen those, I just kind of dismiss them because I'm like, you don't get what you're doing. But this is a good chance for me to kind of explain why that has been frustrating to me. No matter how accomplished you are in any of those fields, CrossFit is gonna, you guys know this that have been doing this a long time. I'm still learning how to do things better. I'm still learning how to do things right. And I've been doing CrossFit since 2007. It takes years to get good at this. And the nice thing is you'll get more fit on that journey, but there's gonna be some hurdles you have to cross along the way. And there's gonna be some steps backwards you have to make along the way to keep going on that journey. So the first one this article talked about, working through injuries. And guys, everybody who trains with intensity is gonna get injured. It's gonna happen. Again, not because of intensity is bad, because we are humans and we screw stuff up. Humans come with a lot of baggage, humans come with our own way of doing things, and so we are going to mess that up when we're training intensely. So when this happens, this has always been a silver lining for me when I've been injured. It is a chance to work on my mechanics of movement. You're gonna be set back. This is one of those times you can't go intensely. You're gonna have to go slow. You're gonna have to work on specific movements. But let's say you have an upper body injury. This is the perfect time to dial in your squat form, to really work on your stance and get really detailed on your squat form in a way that you'd never have the patience to do otherwise. This is, if you have a lower body injury, this is the chance to strengthen your rotator cuff and do a lot of external, internal rotation on your upper body that will serve you well down the road that you never have the time or patience to do when you're working out regularly. This eliminates your ability or your urge to compete in class. Now I'm just going to have to do my thing. And every time you get injured, it is a chance to become more self-aware of how you work out. And I want to tell you that the key to, as you get older, to training this way successfully is to become very self-aware. Is to become very aware of yourself in the moment of when I want to push hard and it's the right time to push hard, and when I want to push hard and it's not the right time, and being able to listen to your body. And injuries teach you that, and taking the time to come back for an injury teaches you that like nothing else will. So at this time, coming back from an injury, and it's hard, easy for me to say this, hard for me to do too. It's not how fast you come back, it's how prepared you come back from that injury. And just not saying, oh, I'm injured, I can't work out. But yeah, thinking outside the box. I have an upper body injury, I can do tons of lower body stuff. I have a lower body injury, I can do tons of upper body stuff. And I can do all the things that I wouldn't do otherwise. I have, some kind of a shoulder injury, I can work on double unders and jump. It all depends on what the injury is, but there's always something else you can work on, and this is the perfect chance to do it. The second one, learning new movements. All right, guys, this is where I'm talking about patience. Patience, patience, patience. This is when you learn how to make practice fun and exciting. This can be frustrating, but it should not be frustrating. You have to learn how to celebrate little incremental steps forward. And this becomes a very personal journey for each of us based on what we're good at and not good at. This is when you scale a workout, even though you could do it RX, because you're working on a movement you're not great at. This is the most important thing to work on outside of class. Not to get extra work in on volume and that kind of stuff, just doing more movements for the sake of doing it. Practice outside of class is the most useful thing to do outside of class, working on skill-based movements. If you don't have muscle ups, you work on strict pull-ups, you work on ring dips, you work on eccentric muscle ups, you work on hips to rings, you lose 5 pounds. All these are the things that you do to get better at muscle ups, not just swinging and swinging and swinging and swinging and hoping one day everything is perfect and you get it. That's a good way to get a shoulder injury. It is learning how to practice these little movements, because a lot of what we do is really complicated. And then the last one would be improving technique. This is when you understand training and what I'm talking about when I talk about training. This is still intensity, but it is a different kind of intensity. Is intensity when you went intense, but the clock registered a slower time. This is when we're working on stamina and then working on whatever your weak movement pattern is. This is doing the workout in a way you don't like doing the workout. And what I mean by that, going touch and go with the barbell on whatever the barbell movement is, even though you know it's going to redline your heart rate, but I need to get better at going touch and go. And so I'm going to do that even though my heart rate is going to redline. That takes balls. That takes guts to do that, but it is a great way to practice, and it is intense even though the clock is going to register a slower time. This is doing unbroken sets of toes to bar and kipping pull-ups in a workout, even though you know you're going to hit a wall when you do that, but working on your stamina on those. This is in an EMOM, going with a lighter weight on a skill-based movement and really dialing in your form so you don't go as heavy as you'd like to go. This is when you don't finish a workout because you spent so much time doing perfect push-ups. And we're about to do Murph. I've been talking about Murph. Guys, I'm convinced for most of us, our fastest Murph time is the worst workout we got doing Murph. Because this is such an easy workout to shortchange and cheat and do wrong. And usually, not always, but usually the fastest person in class on Murph just was the biggest cheater that day. Did the most sloppy form on the movements. So doing Murph without a vest, even though you could do it with a vest, but instead doing 200 perfect push-ups. 200 perfect push-ups would take a lot of us a whole hour. So going slower, but getting the best workout possible, because that's what we're doing here. We're not trying to get the fastest Murph time. We're trying to get a really good workout using Murph as the tool to do that with. And so taking the time to improve your technique, even though it is going to equal a slower time on the clock or a lighter weight than you'd want to use. So the 3 points are working through injury, learning new movements, and then improving technique. Guys, I will win this argument with anybody. CrossFit is the best method of training in regards to application to life. There is no better way to become the fittest version of yourself for your entire life than working out how we work out. If you're training to be fit for life, this is simply the best way. You can be a runner and be pretty fit for life. You can be a lifter and be pretty fit for life. You can do Pilates and be somewhat fit. But none of these methods are going to move the needle forward as far on your fitness as CrossFit is. And none of them are sustainable. My whole point with this, the reason it takes practice, the reason it takes so much time and you will keep getting better for your whole life is because of the depth of what we do, because of how much we do. That is what makes it sustainable. That's why I'll win this argument having this talk. But also why when I hear somebody say they did it for a year and it's a bad method, you were scratching the surface. You don't know what you were doing. You were making mistakes along the way and just bailed too soon. And I get, based on how people's brain works, this is not the method for everyone. Either they may just not get it, or they can't set their ego aside, as I said, enough to do this right. But that's not a failing of the methodology. The methodology, when applied correctly, both in theory and using like empirical data, using evidence, I can prove this is the best way to stay fit your whole life. But you have to master those things and know when going intensely is something you have to do all the time. And when you come back from an injury, you don't get to go slow forever. There's a time when, all right, that was fun, get back to working hard. And you can take time to work on technique and work on stamina. You still need to go into workouts that are in your wheelhouse and bury yourself. But mastering these 3 tools is going to determine if you make it long term as a CrossFitter, or if there is a lifespan on how long you're going to do this for. All right, guys, let me know what you think.